Science Beetle.
Hey, welcome back, students. This is Math 101, and today we're doing dividing decimal numbers. And so the one number that we want to review today is how to divide two numbers that happen to be decimals. And so we're not going to do a very complicated one, but let's go to look at this problem. When you're taking 2.5 and you're going to divide that into 3.25, and you want to know how many times does it go in. Well, you might also see this problem written a different way. You might also see this problem written as a 3.25 divided by 2.5. It's another way that you can probably see this problem. Another way that you can see this problem written would be 3.25 divided by 2.5. And either way of these three are correct, but wherever we're doing the problems, we're always going to be probably almost always using the top one. Okay? So let's go ahead and solve this problem. And I'm going to do it one of two ways to begin with, and then I'll do the other at the very end. First way that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the long way to do this. And then the second way that I'll show you is going to be a little bit of a faster way, but it involves a little process called factoring. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so when we start these kinds of problems, almost always, the first thing you got to do is always look where is the decimal spot. And keep in mind that when you look at these problems, there's two different things. You've got two different numbers, the first number here and the second number. First number here is the number that's doing the dividing. Okay, and we usually call this the denominator. And it didn't come out very good. So let me try rewriting that word again for us. And this is called the denominator. The 3.25 in this instance is going to be another term, and this term we call the numerator. Okay, and how does that really look like? Well, the reason that this is called the numerator and the denominator is because it usually is presented in a different form, which is going to be the 3.25 over 2.5. And so what this really means is that you're going to take the top number, which is the numerator, and I'm just going to represent that with an N, and then the bottom number is the denominator. I'm going to represent that with a D. And this little bar here in the middle, and I'm going to change the color on us here, but this little bar right here in the middle, this little bar means divided by. And the reason that it's there is because when we read this, we usually start at the very top and we say 3.25 divided by 2.5. And so that's just a little bit of an explanation as to what these numbers really mean. So what we want to do at this point is essentially try to put this into a form that we can actually do quickly and efficiently. But whenever we're dividing decimals, it's kind of hard to keep track of all the decimals. So one trick that teachers usually tell you is to take the decimal and move it over to the 1, or move it over to the right, at least 1. And as we know in math, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if we did it to the 2.5, we have to do the same thing to the 3.25 and move the decimal over one over. When we do that, the number then becomes 25 dividing into 32.5. Okay? And when we do that, then that allows us then to begin the math that we need to do. And so we then start off with asking how many times does 25 go into 3? Well, we know that 3 is way smaller than 25, so the answer there is going to be 0. Now, we typically don't put anything at the top when a number 25 can't go into a 3, or any number can't go into a number, but for this lesson we will. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a 0 here, only to denote that 25 was not able to go into 3. So then we expand our number. Now instead we look at 32 and we ask how many times can 25 go into 32? And since 32 is bigger than 25, the answer there is going to be at least 1. So how do we check that? Well, we do 25, and this is times 1. If we add another 25, and that's going to be times 2, what we get here is 50, right? So 50 is way too big than 32, so the answer here has to be that 25 can go in only one time. If we do that, what we got to do is multiply the 1 times the 25, and that's going to give us 25 at the bottom. And so we're trying to figure out how much we have left. We need to subtract. And what we're going to do is begin with the 2. And we're going to subtract 5 from the 2. Since 2 is way smaller than the 5, we need to borrow some from the 3. So that we're going to take a 1 from the 3 becomes a 2, and then the 2 becomes a 12. So then when we ask the question, so 12 minus 5, the answer there is going to be 7. 2 minus 2 is 0, and so therefore the answer would be 0, but we typically don't add zeros there. We bring down the decimal point there, and then the answer here is going to be 5. Now, at this point, the reason for bringing the decimal point down is just to remind us that there is a decimal point there, but we're not going to actually pay too much attention to it at this point. What we're going to do is we're going to leave it at 7.5. And so that makes our math a little bit easy. So when we looked at the problem over here, if this was 25 times 1, the answer was 25. 25 times 2, the answer was 50. So if I add another 25 here, that will give me 5, 7. So I know that if I multiply 25 times 3, the answer that I'll get is 75. So here at the very top, I want to put 3. And if I do that, I bring down 3 times 25 is 75. I subtract 75 from 75, the answer is 0. Whenever I get to 0 then, this tells me that I can stop. So it's okay to stop at this point. That means I don't have to go any further. Why? Because there's no remainder. And so what I need to do here, since there was a decimal point here, I do need to bring that up, and the decimal point goes there. So the answer here of how many times can 25 go into 32.5, the answer is going to be 1.3. And so that's the answer there. So let's go ahead and try this here using another method. And what we're going to shoot for here, or aim for, is just to do a little bit of a quick rounding, just to see if our answer is right. Okay? And it's just going back and doing a quick check. So if we do this 2.5, 3.25, one quick way that we can do is we want to round it, since the smallest number that we've got is two figures here. I want to make sure that I can look at this one in 2 figures as well. Okay? And so the easiest way to do that is to look at the 3.25. I want to round it to the 10th place. So that means I want to round it to this number here. In order to do that, I have to look at the 5 and ask myself, is 5 greater than, equal to, or less than 5? Since it's equal to, that means I can round up. So the 5 then increases the value of the 2 by 1. So that means that underneath the division sign, I've got 3.3. And then I've got 2.5 here. Now, could I go a little bit further and simplify this even further? Absolutely. Could I make this one into, I look at the 2 and I look at the 5. Is it 5 greater than, less than, or equal to the 5? It's equal to, so that means I can increase the 2 by 3. So this becomes a 3.3. Okay? And so when I do that, then it's very easy math from this point. I know that if I take the 3, how many times can 3 go into 3? Well, it's going to be able to go to 1. That means I'll have a 3 here, 0 here, bring down the 3, and then I can do 3 times some number will give me 3. That answer is 1. So 3 subtracted from 3, I have 0. That means I can stop now here, and then don't forget the decimal point here, bring it up, and when I do that, the decimal point will be there. And so when I look at my estimated answer here at the very top, and I'm going to circle it in green, the answer there that I got was 1.1. This is very close to the answer that we got the other way. Now, keep in mind that what I did on the right-hand side here, this was an estimate. Okay, so it's not going to be exact, but it will be close enough to see if the answer you got over here on the left-hand side was right on or very close to the right answer. And since the estimate is close to the right answer, then this answer is right on in terms of correctness. Now, a way that you can also do this, since many of us do have calculators, go ahead and use a calculator, try it out. But the idea here is to help you divide decimal numbers without the use of a calculator as quickly as possible. And so the rounding definitely helps you do that. So I hope that helps give you a little bit of a refresher on dividing decimals. Subscribe us, catch us at the next lesson, and we'll see you soon.